Imagine a U.S. Senator who is not just a politician, but also a former professional fighter. Someone who ran a plumbing business, grew up on a ranch, and later became one of the most controversial voices in Washington. Now, imagine that same person being chosen to lead America's Department of Homeland Security, one of the most powerful security agencies in the world. That's exactly what's happening right now, because Markwayne Mullin, the Republican senator from Oklahoma, has suddenly become one of the most talked about figures in American politics after being nominated to lead the Department of Homeland Security by Donald Trump. But who exactly is Markwayne Mullin? Why is his nomination causing debate in Washington? And how did a plumber turned fighter turned politician rise to such a powerful position? Let's break it all down. To understand this story, we need to start in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Markwayne Mullin was born in 1977 and grew up in a working-class family in rural Oklahoma. His background was far from the typical elite political path many American politicians follow. Instead of graduating from an Ivy League university, Mullin's early life revolved around family, work, and survival. At just 20 years old, his father became ill, and suddenly Mullin had to take over the family plumbing business. What started as a small company with only a handful of employees eventually expanded into one of the largest service companies in the region. This experience shaped his political identity. Unlike many politicians, Mullin constantly presented himself as a blue-collar businessman, someone who understands small businesses and everyday workers. But his story doesn't stop there, because before entering politics, Mullin had another unusual chapter in his life. He was also a professional mixed martial arts fighter, competing in several fights and finishing his short career undefeated. Not exactly the traditional background of a future U.S. senator. Mullin entered politics in 2012. At the time, Oklahoma's 2nd congressional district seat became open, and Mullin decided to run. His campaign message was simple but powerful. He wasn't a career politician. He was a rancher, businessman, and outsider. That message resonated with voters. He won the election and served in the U.S. House of Representatives from 2013 to 2023. During that decade in Congress, Mullin developed a reputation as a strong conservative voice. He aligned closely with the Republican Party and supported policies focused on border security, lower taxes, conservative social policies, strong national defense. In 2022, Mullin took the next step in his political career. He ran for the U.S. Senate seat in Oklahoma and won, becoming a senator in 2023. But Mullin's time in Washington wasn't without controversy. In fact, he quickly became known for his combative personality and outspoken style. Markwayne Mullin has often made headlines for his confrontational approach. One of the most famous moments came during a Senate committee hearing in 2023, where he challenged a labor union leader to a physical fight during a heated exchange. Yes, a U.S. senator challenging someone to a fight during a hearing. The moment went viral and became one of the most unusual scenes in modern American politics. But it wasn't the only controversy. Mullin has also faced criticism for political statements, including claims related to the 2020 U.S. presidential election, which he suggested had been stolen from Donald Trump. He has also taken strong positions on issues like abortion and immigration. Supporters say he is bold, authentic, and unapologetic. Critics say he is too aggressive and politically extreme. Either way, he has become a highly visible figure in the Republican Party. Fast forward to 2026, a major political shakeup occurred in Washington when President Donald Trump decided to remove Kristi Noem from her position as Secretary of Homeland Security. Trump then nominated Markwayne Mullin to replace her. This move immediately grabbed headlines across the United States. The Department of Homeland Security is one of the most important agencies in the U.S. government. It oversees border security, immigration enforcement, counterterrorism, cybersecurity, and disaster response. In other words, whoever leads DHS plays a major role in shaping America's national security policies. Trump praised Mullin as a MAGA warrior who strongly supports the administration's America First agenda, and Mullin is known to be a strong supporter of strict immigration enforcement and aggressive border security policies. But Mullin's nomination is already sparking debate. Supporters argue that his background as a businessman and outsider is exactly what Washington needs. They believe he will bring strong leadership and loyalty to the administration's policies. However, critics say the choice raises serious questions. They point to his history of
confrontations and controversial statements. Some also question whether someone with such a combative political style is the right person to lead a massive federal security agency. And there's another interesting detail. Mullin is currently the only sitting U.S. senator without a bachelor's degree. For some people, that represents a refreshing break from the typical elite political background. For others, it raises concerns about experience and qualifications. Right now, Mullin's nomination still needs to go through the Senate confirmation process. That means senators will hold hearings, ask questions, and vote on whether he should officially become the next Secretary of Homeland Security. Given the current political balance in Washington, many analysts believe he has a strong chance of being confirmed. But the confirmation hearings could still become intense, especially given Mullin's controversial moments and outspoken personality. So when you look at Markwayne Mullin's story, it's anything but ordinary. A ranch kid from Oklahoma, a plumbing business owner, a professional MMA fighter, a congressman, a U.S. senator, and now potentially one of the most powerful security officials in the United States. Whether you see him as a bold outsider shaking up Washington or a controversial figure whose style could create more political conflict, one thing is certain: Markwayne Mullin is now at the center of one of the biggest political stories in America, and the outcome of his nomination could shape U.S. national security policy for years to come.